Sarah Chen walked through the tall halls of the Galactic Council building. Her footsteps echoed off the smooth walls made of some alien metal that always felt cold to touch. She had been humanity's voice here for 5 years now, but still felt small in these massive corridors built for beings much larger than humans. The other species always looked down at her, not just because she was shorter than most of them, but because they treated humans like children who needed protection. Every meeting was the same story. The council would give humans simple jobs: mining rocks in space, cleaning up old battlefields, or watching empty borders where nothing ever happened. Humans are still young, they would say with their strange voices. You need time to grow. Let the older races handle the important work. Sarah had heard this so many times she could repeat it in her sleep, but today felt different. Today she had been called to a special meeting that no human had ever been invited to before. The meeting room was darker than usual. Only a few council members were there, not the hundreds that usually filled the great chamber. Ambassador Kethtar from the Vorthak species gestured for Sarah to sit. His 6 arms moved like tree branches in wind, and his large black eyes never seemed to blink. Ambassador Chen, Kethtar spoke in the common galactic language. We have information to share with you. Important information about threats to human colonies. Sarah sat up straight. This was unusual. The council never shared real intelligence with humans. They always said humans were not ready for such serious matters. A floating screen appeared in the air between them. It showed a map of human space with red marks on several worlds. Sarah recognized them. These were colonies that had gone quiet in recent months. The official report said they were attacked by unknown raiders from outside the galaxy. These attacks, Kethtar continued, they are more serious than we first thought. The raiders have technology we do not understand. Very dangerous technology. Sarah studied the map more closely. Something felt wrong about the pattern of attacks. The destroyed colonies were all new settlements, places where humans had been trying new things. Better farming methods, faster ships, stronger weapons. What kind of technology? Sarah asked. Another council member, Zixura from the hegemony, made a sound like grinding metal. Weapons that can destroy entire planets, ships that move faster than anything we have ever seen. They seem to target species that show too much growth. The way Zixura said that last word made Sarah's skin crawl. Growth. Like it was something bad. We believe, Kethtar said slowly, that humans may be their next target. Your species has been developing very quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. Sarah felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. Too quickly? We have been careful to follow all council guidelines. We only use approved technology. We only settle worlds you assign to us. Yes, Kethtar waved 2 of his arms. But humans are different. You adapt fast. You learn fast. You fight with passion. These raiders, they seem to dislike such things. The meeting continued for another hour. The council members showed Sarah more maps, more reports, more warnings. They promised that human worlds would be protected, but only if humans stayed close to council space. No more exploring the far edges of the galaxy. No more experimental technology. No more expanding their territory. As Sarah left the meeting, she felt confused and worried. The council's story made some sense, but something still bothered her about it. Why had they never shared this information before? Why were all the attacked colonies ones that were doing well? That night in her small apartment in the diplomatic quarter, Sarah could not sleep. She kept thinking about the pattern of the attacks. She pulled up her personal computer and began looking at the official reports about the lost colonies. Colony New Texas, destroyed 3 months ago. Last report mentioned breakthrough in faster-than-light communication. Colony Hope's End, destroyed 2 months ago. Had developed new mining equipment that worked 3 times faster than anything else in the galaxy. Colony Freedom Point, destroyed just last week. Their final message mentioned completing tests on a new type of ship engine. Sarah felt her heart beating faster. Every destroyed colony had been working on something new. Something that would make humans stronger or more independent. She tried to access more files, but most were locked. Her clearance level was too low. But Sarah had learned a few tricks in her years here. She had friends in other embassies, people who owed her favors. By morning, she had copies of files she was never supposed to see. Internal council communications, military reports, budget documents. The truth hit her like a physical blow. There were no unknown raiders. The destroyed colonies had been eliminated by Council forces. The official reports were lies. The attacks had been ordered by the Council itself to stop human advancement, but that was not the worst part. As Sarah read deeper into the files, she found the real reason for the Council's fear. According to their own intelligence reports, humanity had already surpassed most Council species in military technology. The primitive humans were actually more advanced than their supposed protectors. The Council had been lying about everything. They were not protecting humanity, they were holding humanity back. And when human colonies advanced too much, they destroyed them and blamed it on imaginary enemies. Sarah found reports about Earth itself. The Council had detailed plans for dealing with humanity if they ever became too dangerous. That involved making sure humans never learned the truth about their real capabilities. Her hands shook as she read a communication between Keth Tar and the Council military commander. The subject line made her blood turn cold. Final solution for human problem. Sarah quickly copied everything to a secure storage device. She had to get this information back to Earth. Humanity needed to know what the Council really thought of them. But as she prepared to leave, Sarah realized something else. If the Council was this scared of humans, it meant humans were much stronger than anyone had told them. All those years of being treated like children, of being given simple jobs, of being told they were too weak for real responsibility, it had all been lies to keep humanity from realizing their own power. The Council had made a terrible mistake. They had been so focused on keeping humans down that they had forgotten something important about human nature. When humans discovered they had been betrayed, when they learned that their own people had been murdered to keep them weak, they would not just be angry, they would be furious. And fury, Sarah knew, was something humans did very well. She packed her belongings and prepared for the fastest trip back to Earth she had ever made. The Council thought they could control humanity by keeping them ignorant and afraid. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As her ship lifted off from the Council world, Sarah looked back at the great towers and floating platforms of their civilization. It looked so powerful, so permanent, so untouchable, but Sarah had seen the fear in their reports. She had read their desperate plans. The great galactic council, rulers of thousands of worlds, were terrified of one small blue planet and its angry children. Soon, humanity would know why. The emergency meeting in Geneva was not going well. Sarah Chen stood at the front of the room, her datapad in hand, facing the most powerful people on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, military leaders, and corporate heads all stared at her with expressions ranging from shock to disbelief. "Let me understand this correctly," said President Martinez, leaning forward in his chair. "You're telling us that the Galactic Council has been lying to us for 30 years? That they destroyed our own colonies?" "Yes, sir," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was revealing. "The evidence is all here. The Council sees us as a threat that needs to be controlled." Director Kim of Earth Defense shook his head. "This is hard to believe, Ambassador. The Council has given us so much: advanced medical technology, clean energy systems, space travel capabilities. Why would they help us if they saw us as enemies?" Sarah had expected this reaction. 30 years of friendship with the Council was not easy to throw away, even with proof of betrayal. They gave us those things to keep us happy and dependent. Look at what they gave us. Always technology that was already old by their standards. Always just enough to make us grateful, never enough to make us equal. General Harrison, head of Earth's Space Forces, studied the documents on his screen. "Even if this is true, what can we do? We have maybe 1,000 ships. The Council has hundreds of thousands." "That's what they want us to believe," Sarah said. She activated a holographic display showing human ship designs. "But look at our actual capabilities compared to Council forces. According to their own intelligence reports, our ships are already superior in many ways." The room fell silent as the military leaders studied the data. Slowly, understanding began to dawn on their faces. "My God," whispered Admiral Torres. "They've been feeding us false information about their strength. Our latest destroyers could take on their battleships." While Earth's leaders struggled with these revelations, Commander Marcus Torres was having his own moment of truth in the depths of space, far from both Earth and the Council worlds. Marcus commanded a small patrol fleet on the edge of human territory. 3 ships, nothing fancy, just keeping an eye on the border regions. It was boring work, the kind the Council always gave to humans. Important responsibility, they called it. protecting the peaceful frontier. But today, Marcus's communications officer picked up something unusual. Encrypted Council military channels were active in their sector. That was strange. The Council never told humans when their forces were operating nearby. "Commander," Lieutenant Walsh called from her station, "I'm getting multiple Council ships on long-range sensors, big ones, and they're heading toward Research Station Alpha 7. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Alpha 7 was a human research facility working on new engine designs. Just 50 people, mostly scientists and their families. If the Council files Sarah had brought back were true, then Alpha 7 was exactly the kind of place the Council would want to destroy. "Open a channel to Alpha 7, Marcus ordered. "Priority alert." The face of Dr. Rebecca Foster appeared on screen. She looked tired but excited. "Commander Torres. Perfect timing. We just made a breakthrough with the new drive system. We think we can cut travel time between star systems in half." Marcus felt ice in his veins. A breakthrough. Just like the other colonies before they were destroyed. "Doctor, you need to evacuate immediately. Get everyone to the escape pods and scatter. Don't ask questions, just do it now." Dr. Foster's expression changed from confusion to fear. "Commander, what's happening? Is there an attack coming?" Before Marcus could answer, his tactical officer shouted a warning. "Council ships dropping out of hyperspace. 12 vessels, heavy cruiser class. They're charging weapons." On the communication screen, Marcus could see Dr. Foster turning to look at something off camera. Her face went white. "They're targeting the station. Why would the Council attack us?" Marcus knew he had only seconds to act. His 3 small ships against 12 Council cruisers should have been suicide. Every military manual said to retreat and report. Every Council treaty said human forces were not allowed to engage Council ships without permission. But Marcus looked at Dr. Foster's frightened face and thought about the destroyed colonies. About all the lies they had been told. About the families on that research station who had never done anything wrong except try to make humanity stronger. "All ships, battle formation," Marcus ordered. "Prepare to engage Council forces, sir." His first officer stared at him in shock. "We can't fight the Council. It's against every treaty we've signed." "Those treaties were based on lies," Marcus replied. Red alert. "All weapons online." What happened next became legend in human space. Marcus's 3 ships moved with tactics the Council had never seen before. They did not fight like civilized species, standing in formation and trading shots according to established rules. They fought like humans, wild, unpredictable, and angry. The human ships split up and attacked from 3 directions at once. They used the asteroid field nearby for cover, popping out to fire and then disappearing again. They rammed damaged Council ships instead of finishing them with weapons. They used mining charges as improvised missiles. Most importantly, they fought like they had nothing to lose. The Council commander tried to contact Marcus. "Human vessel, cease your attack immediately. You are in violation of galactic law." "Your people murdered our colonies," Marcus replied over the open channel. "You want to follow galactic law? Come and make me." The battle lasted 2 hours. When it ended, 8 Council ships were destroyed or disabled. 3 had fled back to Council space. Marcus had lost 1 ship, but the crew had survived. Research Station Alpha 7 was safe. The news spread across human space faster than any official communication could travel. Merchant ships carried the story from system to system. Military units shared encrypted messages. Civilian networks buzzed with excitement and anger. Commander Marcus Torres, with 3 small ships, had defeated a Council battle group. If 3 human ships could do that, what could 1,000 do? What could 10,000 do? In military bases across human territory, officers looked at their ships with new eyes. These vessels, they had been told, were weak and outdated. They were actually powerful weapons that could match anything the Council had. On colony worlds, miners and farmers remembered all the equipment failures that had happened at convenient times, all the accidents that had killed their best engineers, all the trade deals that seemed designed to keep humans dependent on alien technology. The anger that had been building since Sarah's return from the Council worlds began to boil. Over President Martinez called another emergency meeting, but this time the mood was very different. Military leaders who had been cautious before now spoke of mobilization. Civilian leaders who had preached patience now demanded action. "The question is not whether we can fight," General Harrison said, studying fleet deployment reports. "The question is how fast we can get ready." "Our people are already ready," Admiral Torres replied. She was Marcus's aunt, and the pride in her voice was clear. They just needed to know they were allowed to stop pretending to be weak. Sarah Chen watched the transformation happening around her and felt both hope and fear. Hope that humanity would finally take its rightful place in the galaxy. Fear of what would happen when the Council realized their pet humans were no longer willing to play that role. The storm was building, and soon it would break over the galaxy with all the fury that humanity had been holding back for 30 years. The Council had taught humanity to be patient, to be grateful, to be quiet. They had forgotten to teach them to be afraid. Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching as humanity's true fleet assembled in the shadow of Mars. What the Council saw as a few hundred primitive vessels was actually the most advanced war machine the galaxy had ever witnessed. Final count. Admiral, reported Captain Stevens from his position at the tactical station. 1,200 combat vessels ready for deployment. All crews at full readiness. Elena nodded, but her mind was on the reports flowing in from across human space. The past 3 weeks had been a revelation. As soon as Earth's government had announced the truth about the Council's deception, human military units everywhere had begun showing their real capabilities. The mining ships that had been slowly moving asteroid ore turned out to have engines capable of incredible speed. The cargo vessels that had seemed so simple were actually modular designs that could be reconfigured into troop transports or mobile weapon platforms in a matter of hours. The defensive weapons on colony worlds were revealed to be sophisticated military systems that had been disguised as civilian equipment. For 30 years, while the Council thought they were keeping humanity weak, humans had been preparing for war without even knowing it. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Commander Park from Communications, "we're receiving reports from Sector 7. Admiral Chen's task force has secured the Kepler station. Council forces retreated without engaging." Elena smiled grimly. That was the pattern repeating across the galaxy. When faced with actual human military capability, Council forces were discovering that their supposed superiority was an illusion. The first real test had come at the Proxima system, where a Council garrison had tried to stop human forces from advancing. The Council commander had sent a message demanding surrender, reminding the humans that his battle group had never lost a fight. The human response had been simple: "There's a first time for everything." The battle lasted 6 hours. The Council's proud battle group was destroyed completely. Not a single human ship was lost. Elena's personal communicator chimed. A priority message from Earth Command. She opened it and felt her pulse quicken as she read. The Council had finally realized what they were facing. They were mobilizing their entire military. Thousands of ships from dozens of species were gathering at their stronghold worlds. The Council was preparing for total war against humanity. All commanders, report to the briefing room, Elena announced over the ship's communication system. 10 minutes later, the senior officers of humanity's fleet were gathered around the holographic tactical display. The map showed Council forces throughout the galaxy, far more than the humans could match in pure numbers. "They have us outnumbered 5-1, Elena said without emotion. "Their ships are bigger than ours. They have more resources, more weapons, more experience." The room was quiet. Everyone knew these facts already. "They also," Elena continued, "have no idea how to fight humans." She activated a series of recordings from recent battles. Council ships moving in predictable formations. Council commanders following ancient tactical doctrines. Council forces retreating when their plans failed instead of adapting to changing situations. For 1,000 years, the Council species have fought the same way. They line up their ships, fire their weapons, and wait to see who runs out of ammunition first. It works fine when everyone follows the same rules. Admiral Torres, Marcus's aunt and commander of the Second Fleet, leaned forward. "But we don't follow their rules." "Exactly. We adapt, we improvise. We do whatever it takes to win." Elena changed the display to show human fleet movements. "While they're gathering their forces for one big battle, we're going to tear their empire apart piece by piece." The plan Elena revealed was audacious. Instead of meeting the Council in a traditional fleet engagement, human forces would strike simultaneously at dozens of Council worlds. Not the heavily defended military bases, but the industrial planets, the supply depots, the communication hubs that kept the Council's empire running. "Each task force will have one goal," Elena explained: "cause as much damage as possible, then disappear before reinforcements arrive. Make them chase us. Make them split their forces. Make them panic. Captain Rodriguez from the Third Fleet raised a concern.
Admiral, what about civilian casualties?
Many council worlds have billions of non-combatants. Elena's expression grew serious. We target military and industrial facilities only. No civilian populations. We're not like them. We don't murder innocents to make a point. The room murmured approval. This was important. Humanity was fighting to survive, but they would not become monsters in the process. Remember, Elena continued, every species in the council was told the same lies about us. Many of them genuinely believe we're dangerous primitives who need to be controlled. When they see how we really fight, with honor, with precision, with restraint, some of them might start asking questions about what else the council has lied about. The offensive began at exactly 000 hours, Galactic Standard Time. Across a front spanning half the galaxy, human task forces struck simultaneously at 73 council installations. The results exceeded even Elena's optimistic projections. At the Centauri shipyards, Admiral Park's forces destroyed 3 battleships under construction and eliminated the facility's production capability for months, all without a single civilian casualty. In the Vega system, Captain Williams led a strike force that captured an entire council intelligence base, along with years of classified files about council operations. At the industrial world of Kepler 442, Commander Jackson's ships disabled the planet's orbital manufacturing stations using precise strikes that left the civilian cities untouched. But the most significant victory came at the Council's main communication hub in the Alpha Centauri system. Captain Torres, Marcus's younger brother, led a daring raid that not only destroyed the facility, but also transmitted a message to every world in Council space. The message was simple. Broadcast in the languages of all Council species, this is Captain David Torres of the Human Defense Force. For 30 years, your governments have lied to you about humanity. They told you we were primitive and dangerous. They destroyed our colonies to prevent us from growing stronger. They planned to eliminate our entire species because they feared what we might become. We are not your enemies. We fight only because we have been forced to defend ourselves. But we will not be caged. We will not be controlled. And we will not allow anyone to commit genocide against innocent people. Ask your leaders why they fear one small species so much. Ask them what else they have hidden from you. Ask them if their version of peace is worth the price they demand. The message created chaos throughout Council space. On dozens of worlds, civilian populations began questioning their governments. Some species that had been minor members of the Council saw an opportunity to break free from alien control. Others, inspired by human defiance, began demanding answers about their own treatment by the Council hierarchy. Elena watched the reports flowing in from across the galaxy and felt a mixture of pride and concern. The human offensive was succeeding beyond all expectations, but she knew the Council would not surrender easily. They would fight back with everything they had, and when they did, humanity would be ready. On colony worlds throughout human space, civilians were converting their mining equipment into weapons. Farmers were turning their agricultural drones into reconnaissance units. Engineers were working around the clock to retrofit merchant ships for military duty. The Council had spent decades trying to keep humanity weak and divided. Instead, they had created something they could never understand, a species that grew stronger under pressure, more united when threatened, and more dangerous when they had something to protect. Elena looked out at the stars and thought about the battles to come. The Council still had numerical superiority. They still controlled most of the galaxy. They still believed they could crush humanity through brute force. They were about to learn why that was the worst mistake they could possibly make. Humans had been holding back for 30 years, playing the role of grateful junior partners while secretly growing stronger. Now the mask was off. The gloves were coming off too, and hell was about to be unleashed across the galaxy. Supreme Council Leader Vexthul stared at the tactical display with growing horror. Red markers showed human attacks across the galaxy. Blue markers showed Council forces retreating or destroyed. In just 2 weeks, humanity had shattered the illusion of Council invincibility. "Report," Vexthul demanded, his 3 voices speaking in perfect unison, as was traditional for his species. Military Commander Keth Tar stepped forward, his 6 arms trembling with what might have been fear or rage. The humans have struck simultaneously at 112 installations. Our shipbuilding capacity is reduced by 40%. Our communication networks are in chaos. And worst of all, 7 species have declared independence from the Council. The briefing room fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's life support systems. The Galactic Council, which had ruled most of the known galaxy for over 1,000 years, was falling apart. "How many ships have we lost?" asked Council Member Zixara, her metallic voice grinding with electronic static. 317 destroyed or disabled, Kethtar replied. Against only 21 human vessels lost. The numbers were staggering. For every human ship destroyed, the Council had lost 15. The species that had dismissed humanity as primitive barbarians were being systematically defeated by those same primitives. "This cannot continue," Vexthul declared. "The other species are beginning to question our authority. If humanity succeeds in their rebellion, our entire civilization will collapse." Council Member Threx, representing the warrior species of the Outer Rim, spoke with barely contained anger. "Then we must show them the price of defying us. No more selective strikes, no more measured responses. We must destroy them completely. The humans are protected by their homeworld's defenses," Kethtar pointed out. "Every attempt to approach Earth has been repelled. Their orbital platforms and planetary shields are more sophisticated than our intelligence reports indicated." "Then we use the World Breaker," Threx said. The room went completely silent. The World Breaker was the Council's ultimate weapon, a device capable of destroying entire planets. It had been built centuries ago and used only once, to eliminate a species that had tried to develop weapons of mass destruction. Since then, it had been kept in secret storage, a final guarantee of Council supremacy. "The World Breaker has not been activated in over 300 years, Zixara protested. "We do not even know if it still functions." "It functions," Vexthul said quietly. "I have personally overseen its maintenance. It is ready for deployment." The other Council members exchanged looks. Using the World Breaker against Earth would mean committing genocide against the entire human species. 4 billion people living on their homeworld, plus the billions more on colony planets that would be left leaderless and defenseless. "There must be another way," said Council Member Yiltar, the youngest member present. "Perhaps we can negotiate terms of surrender. Offer the humans a place in the Council as equal members." Equal members? Threx's warrior species had no concept of equality with those they considered inferior. They are animals who learn to use tools. They do not deserve equality with civilized beings. "These animals," Kethtar said bitterly, "have destroyed half our fleet in 2 weeks." The argument continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The Council's authority was based on fear and overwhelming force. If they could not crush humanity's rebellion, other species would begin to rebel as well. The empire that had brought peace and order to the galaxy would crumble into chaos. The order was given. The World Breaker would be deployed against Earth. On the planet Kepler 438, former Council species Feldara watched the human ships in orbit with a mixture of hope and fear. Her people had been among the first to declare independence after hearing Captain Torres's broadcast. Now they waited to see if humanity could protect them from Council retaliation. "The human commander wishes to speak with you," her aide reported. Feldara activated the communication system. The face that appeared on screen was young for a human, but his eyes held the confidence of someone who had seen combat. "President Feldara," Commander Jackson said, speaking in her people's language with only a slight accent. "I wanted to personally assure you that my fleet will defend your world. The Council will not punish you for choosing freedom." "Commander," Feldara replied carefully, "we are grateful for your protection, but we have received reports that the Council is gathering a massive fleet. Can humanity truly stand against such numbers?" Jackson smiled, and Feldara was surprised by how reassuring the expression looked. "Ma'am, 3 weeks ago the Council thought they had humanity under control. Yesterday they thought their fleet was invincible. Today they're finding out how wrong they were about everything." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. Jackson's expression turned serious as he listened to something off-screen. "President Feldara, I need to cut this short. We've just detected a Council superweapon moving toward human space. A big one." After the communication ended, Feldara stared at the empty screen. A superweapon? She had heard rumors of such things in the deepest Council archives. planet-killing devices from the old days when the Council had first established its dominance. If the Council was willing to use such weapons, then they truly were desperate. In the Sol system, alarms were sounding across every human installation. The massive object moving toward Earth was unlike anything in recorded history. A ship the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons and surrounded by an escort fleet of 200 vessels. Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez stood in Earth Defense Command, watching the displays with grim determination. Every human ship in the galaxy was racing toward Earth, but most would not arrive in time. The defense of humanity's homeworld would depend on the orbital platforms and planetary shields that had been secretly built over the past 30 years. Estimated time to weapons range? Elena asked. 16 hours at current speed, reported the tactical officer. The weapon appears to be some kind of planet cracker. If it fires on Earth, it won't get the chance, Elena said firmly. Signal all platforms to prepare for maximum defensive fire. Activate every shield generator on the planet and in orbit, and send a message to every human ship in the galaxy. If Earth falls, they are to continue the fight until every Council world burns. As the Worldbreaker approached, its massive size becoming visible even to observers on Earth's surface, President Martinez addressed the planet from his bunker deep beneath Geneva. Citizens of Earth, he began, his voice carrying to every screen and speaker on the planet. We face our greatest test. The Council has sent a weapon capable of destroying our world because they cannot defeat us in fair combat. But we are not afraid. We have faced extinction before and we have always survived. On colony worlds throughout human space, people gathered around communication screens to watch their homeworld's final battle. In asteroid mining stations, workers armed themselves with improvised weapons, knowing they would be next if Earth fell. On frontier settlements, families hugged each other while keeping watch for Council ships. The Worldbreaker entered the outer edge of the Sol system and immediately came under attack from the farthest orbital defense platforms. The massive ship's shields absorbed the incoming fire without visible effect. But the humans were not trying to destroy it yet. They were testing its defenses, learning how it responded to different types of weapons. Interesting, Elena murmured, watching the tactical data. Their shields are powerful, but they're using old technology. They're designed to stop traditional energy weapons, ma'am. The tactical officer looked confused. Elena smiled for the first time in days. Send a signal to Platform 7. Tell them to prepare the surprise we've been saving. As the Worldbreaker approached Earth, confident in its invulnerability, the humans were about to teach the Council their most important lesson yet. Never underestimate the species that turned their oppression into preparation. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity had one more surprise waiting for their enemies. The Worldbreaker fired its planet-killing weapon at Earth, a beam of pure energy that had destroyed worlds before. For a moment that seemed to last forever, the beam struck the blue planet that had given birth to humanity. And then something impossible happened. The energy beam stopped, held suspended in space by a network of defensive fields that surrounded Earth like a glowing web. The beam hung there for 3 seconds, growing brighter and more intense as the planetary defense grid absorbed its power. Then the grid did something the Council had never imagined possible. It reversed the energy flow. The Worldbreaker's own weapon, amplified and redirected, struck back at the massive ship with devastating force. Shields that had been designed to withstand any assault collapsed instantly under the power of their own ultimate weapon. The ship's hull, built to survive anything the galaxy could throw at it, cracked like an eggshell. Supreme Council Leader Vexthal watched in horror as his greatest weapon tore itself apart. Impossible, he whispered. No species has ever developed technology capable of redirecting the Worldbreaker's beam. Sir, his communications officer called out in panic. We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're offering terms of surrender. Surrender? Vexthal could barely comprehend the word. They want us to surrender to them? On the bridge of the UES Indomitable, Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez opened a communication channel to every Council ship in the Sol system. Her image appeared on screens throughout the enemy fleet, and her voice carried clearly through the static of damaged communication systems. Council forces, Elena said calmly. This is Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Defense Force. Your ultimate weapon has failed. Your escort fleet is surrounded by our vessels. You have one chance to avoid complete annihilation. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Around the crippled Worldbreaker, Human ships had appeared as if from nowhere. Hundreds of vessels that had been hidden in the asteroid belt, waiting for this moment. You will power down your weapons and surrender your ships. Any vessel that attempts to flee will be destroyed. Any ship that continues to fight will be destroyed. Your choice is simple: surrender or die. The response came from Council Military Commander Keth Tar, his 6 arms trembling with rage. Humans, you do not understand what you have done. Without the Council to maintain order, the galaxy will fall into chaos. Hundreds of species will go to war with each other. Billions will die. That might have been true, Elena replied, if we planned to rule like you did, but we don't. Before Keth Tar could respond, Elena activated a galactic broadcast system that reached every inhabited world in known space. Her voice, translated into thousands of languages, carried humanity's message to every corner of the galaxy. People of the galaxy, Elena began. This is Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Defense Force. The Galactic Council's reign of terror is over. For 1,000 years, they have maintained peace through fear, controlling your species by convincing you that you needed their protection from each other. We offer you something different. We offer you freedom to choose your own path, to develop your own technology, to govern yourselves as you see fit. We will not rule over you. We will not demand tribute from you. We will not destroy your worlds if you become too successful or too independent. What we will do is protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will mediate disputes between species who ask for our help. We will share our technology freely with those who want to learn. And we will ensure that no species ever again faces genocide because another species fears their potential. The broadcast continued for 20 minutes, outlining humanity's vision for a galaxy based on cooperation rather than domination. When it ended, the response was immediate and overwhelming. On worlds throughout Council space, civilian populations took to the streets demanding the removal of Council governors. Military units that had served the Council for generations laid down their weapons and declared loyalty to their own species rather than alien overlords. Entire star systems declared independence in the first hour after Elena's broadcast, but not all Council forces were ready to surrender. The fanatic core, the species that had built their entire identity around Council supremacy, retreated to their fortress worlds and vowed to fight until extinction, rather than submit to what they called barbaric apes. The siege of the Council stronghold on Nexus Prime lasted 3 months. It was unlike any siege in galactic history. Instead of simply surrounding the world and starving it into submission, human forces broadcast constant communications to the planet's population. They showed footage of human colonies where alien refugees lived in peace and prosperity. They demonstrated new technologies that improved life for everyone, not just the ruling class. They offered amnesty to any Council official who renounced the old ways and embraced the new galactic order. Most importantly, they showed restraint. When Council forces launched desperate attacks from the planet's surface, human ships disabled their weapons without killing the crews. When Council leaders sent suicide bombers against human positions, human forces captured them alive and offered medical treatment. The psychological effect was devastating to Council morale. They had spent so long convincing themselves that humans were savage monsters that they could not comprehend an enemy that showed mercy to those who tried to destroy them. The end came not through military conquest but through internal collapse. Council soldiers began surrendering in massive numbers. Civilian populations opened the city gates to human forces. Finally, even the fanatic leadership realized they had no choice but to negotiate. Sarah Chen, now Secretary General of the New Galactic Union, sat across from the former Council leaders in what had once been their great chamber of power. The massive room that had intimidated her so much during her first visit now seemed almost small. The age of species-based hierarchy is over, Sarah said simply. In the new galaxy, advancement will be based on merit, not genetics. Cooperation will be rewarded more than conquest, and any species that attempts to suppress another will face the combined force of all free peoples. Former Supreme Council leader Vex Thule spoke for the last time in his official capacity. You claim to offer freedom, but you impose it at gunpoint. How is that different from what we did? Sarah leaned forward, her eyes hard with the memory of destroyed human colonies. We impose freedom. You impose slavery. If you cannot see the difference, then you never understood why you lost. The formal surrender was signed 3 days later. The document was simple, written in the common language that all species could understand. It established basic principles that would govern the new galactic order: self-determination for all species, free trade between willing partners, mutual defense against aggressors, and the absolute prohibition of genocide. But the most important clause was the last one, inserted at Sarah's insistence. These principles shall be defended by any species capable of doing so, with humanity serving as guarantor of last resort. The galaxy had learned that humans could be terrible enemies when provoked. Now they would learn that humans could be even better friends when treated with respect. 5 years later, Sarah stood once again in what had been the Council Chamber, now renamed the Assembly of Free Worlds. Representatives from over 300 species debated policies and trade agreements with the passion that only free beings could bring to such discussions. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still conflicts between species, still worlds struggling with poverty, still individuals who abused their power. But there was also something that had never existed before in recorded galactic history: hope for a better future based on cooperation rather than domination. Admiral Elena Vasquez, now serving as Director of Galactic Defense, approached Sarah with her daily briefing. "Any problems I should know about?" Sarah asked. Elena smiled. 3 trade disputes resolved through negotiation, 2 species asking for help with natural disasters, and 1 new species making first contact, asking to join the Union. "Sounds like a normal day in the new galaxy," Sarah replied. As she looked out at the bustling chamber filled with beings who had once lived in fear of each other, Sarah thought about the long journey from discovery to victory to peace. Humanity had not sought to rule the galaxy. They had simply refused to be ruled by those who saw them as inferior. In the end, that had made all the difference. The Council had tried to keep humanity small and weak, never realizing that they were actually forging them into something stronger. Every lie had taught humans to question authority. Every restriction had taught them to value freedom. Every threat had taught them to stand together. The galaxy had a new motto, inscribed above the entrance to the assembly chamber in the languages of all member species: united in freedom, strong in diversity, eternal in vigilance. And if anyone doubted the meaning behind those words, they needed only to look at the small blue marble visible through the chamber's great window, the world that had taught the galaxy that sometimes the best way to achieve peace was to show your enemies that you were too dangerous to oppress, and too honorable to become oppressors yourself.